Tonight on Metro News, a proposal to cut library funding leaves locals disheartened. We take a look at the result of the Trans-Tasman bubble 5 weeks on. And all aboard, there's a new craze hitting the slopes. Kia ora and welcome to Metro News, brought to you by the students of the New Zealand Broadcasting School.
Residents are disappointed at a proposal to cut back funding to a number of city libraries. This could include shortened opening hours, less staff and potentially fewer books. Jessica Swan is investigating and joins us now. Jessica.
Yes, so the idea behind the proposed cut is to save money, nearly $1 million, and half of that coming from reduced hours. Now, as you can imagine, many people are upset about this. In fact, recently, Aranui residents filled the Christchurch City Council chambers in opposition. A lot of people argue in lower socio-economic areas, libraries are essential. It's a safe place for everyone.
I love coming to the library to have some space, quiet time, resources for projects.
I still need to use the library to keep up with what I need. Can't buy all the books that I want.
For us, it's kind of like a lifestyle that we look forward to our weekly trip to the library.
To save money, the council is looking at reducing the amount it spends on libraries. But many book lovers are against the move.
It covers all sectors of the community, from babies to senior citizens, from the wealthy to the impoverished.
Under the proposal, around 10 libraries will be affected. Hours will be reduced in some, others will be closing weekend days. People want the opposite.
I went into the Central Library in town, which is proposed to close an hour earlier, and a lot of people want it to be open till 9 p.m. instead, like the old library used to be.
South Library is just one of many facilities with shorter hours proposed, but no one quite knows how it will impact the 800 people who use the service daily, let alone hundreds of others who use different locations citywide. While some say they'll just adapt, reduced hours will make it harder for others.
People will survive if libraries close at 6, but it would be good if we can offer that service to people who need it.
The solution?
Keep the libraries open, just retain the status quo.
I think libraries should actually possibly be open longer.
Councillors vote in a month. Until then, it's a waiting game to see what the next chapter will hold. Councillors will vote on the proposal on the 21st of June. However, it may take slightly longer than that to make a decision. A lot of people view the libraries as a ratepayer's right, and so they want something that suits their working hours and family needs. So it'll be interesting to see if Council agrees.
Thanks, Jessica. Rugby is regarded as one of the most dangerous contact sports, and over the years has been responsible for some serious head injuries. The Rugby Union is working to protect Kiwi players with the introduction of the Blue Concussion Card. Tommy Flavel has the story.
The New Zealand Rugby Union's issued 250 blue cards since it was introduced 5 years ago. The cards also collect data by identifying rugby's most dangerous phases, an initiative referees say make the game safer.
It's actually had a really positive effect. It's made people much more aware of players who are being injured through knocks to the head and suffering concussion.
Players issued a blue card for a head knock must leave the field until they're given medical clearance.
ACC had almost 2,000 concussion-related rugby claims last year, with Canterbury producing 230 of them. This makes the region the second highest in the country for rugby-related head knocks. However, is this enough to stop Kiwis picking up the ball?
For me, no. There's been times where I think I've had a concussion or I've been head knocked and I wanted to play on. The love of the game for me sometimes overrules safety and health of players. So.
It's tough to make big blanket changes. It's sort of got to be incremental changes, like the tackle height, anything around the head. I think that's pretty much the best way you can do it without impacting the actual flow of the game.
On average, a professional rugby player is likely to sustain a serious concussion after just 25 matches, with 800 cases last year alone.
Any referee who uses a blue card has had to go through training, and here in Canterbury we use our match doctors who are involved at Super Rugby level in recognising and diagnosing concussions of our players. So they've taken our referees through what they should be looking for, symptoms and signs, and we refresh that every year.
Concussions force some of New Zealand's greatest players to hang up their boots. But for now, the fight to protect players' heads is top priority. Tommy Flavel, Metro News.
The tourism industry will be anxiously watching developments in Australia as the Trans-Tasman bubble is once again paused. With a number of new cases in Melbourne, flights out of that city have been stopped for several days. But over the last 5 weeks, around 4,000 Australians have flown into Christchurch. Lucy Bendell has been talking to local businesses to see how they've been faring.
Christchurch has been welcoming Aussies for over a month now, after New Zealand waited more than a year for international tourists. And those who have travelled to New Zealand are pleased to be here.
Oh, amazing. Just wonderful to see my grandchild. Oh, it's good. It's great to have the bubble open. It's great to be moving about.
Feels amazing. I haven't been since I was pregnant with her.
Come over to visit our family, our daughter, our son-in-law and our new 9-month-old grandson.
Christchurch's Riverside Market has seen busy days welcoming local and overseas visitors.
During the school holidays it was certainly very busy. At lunchtime you'd go downstairs and there'd be just like a flood of people coming through each of the doors.
According to Stats New Zealand, Christchurch has already had around 4,000 overseas visitors since late April. And for New Zealand, the country has seen nearly 35,000 people arrive.
It's so good to see the Aussies again. Just like it kind of solidifies that we are moving in the right direction since COVID, and means that we know we're opening our bubbles up to more and more countries. So it is awesome to see them.
And the Riverside Market has seen their best days from it.
Quite a few of our stalls reported to me that it was their busiest day since we've opened, so some of them have done extremely well.
But not all Christchurch businesses are benefiting. Rental campervan companies say they haven't seen a difference.
We haven't seen much change since the bubble opened. Yeah, I would say we definitely expected to see a little bit more, about 5 to 7 bookings per week that are Australian. They tend to come more over the weekend as well, so like Fridays, Saturdays, that's when they arrive.
And now businesses want to see the bubble expanded to other countries. But exactly when is unclear. The government says its focus now is rolling out the vaccine. Lucy Bendell, Metro News.
Coming up next, we take a look at the major resurgence Crocs have had in the past year. And we investigate the ticket to success for cinemas in the digital age.
So I'm Paul Van Uden. I am living in London, have been for the last 6 years, and I'm working as a digital consultant. I was working in radio in New Zealand for about 4 years, and when I moved over I was just looking for a bit of a change of scene, and I started doing like websites and web builds for kind of medium-sized businesses. Ended up working for one of the big agencies, one of the kind of global agencies, and from there I've been moved into consulting as well. My work is genuinely around innovation. It's across all different industries, so I'm not doing one thing at any given time. Not just using technology innovatively, but thinking about, what's the strategy here? How can you use that to think about what people need and respond to those needs? I go out to client sites, so I get to travel all over the place. I could be in Zurich, or I could be working on an account in Berlin or somewhere for 6 months, or up in Scotland. But my home office is here in Canary Wharf. I finished my degree off campus as an executive student. It wasn't purely theoretical. There was a good amount of background and knowledge, but there was a lot of practical application. Learning how to interact with people and how workplaces work was actually a really big advantage.
Welcome back. Once scoffed at, the Crocs footwear brand is flying high. The American company that makes them has had unprecedented success on the stock market this year.
Our reporter Nick Duff is covering the story and joins us live. Nick.
If you Google Crocs, you'll find they're one of the world's leading non-athletic footwear brands. Another fun fact, they're sold in 90 different countries, including New Zealand. They've been around for nearly 20 years, and they haven't always been trendy. But with the help of some big names, they're making a comeback.
Crocs have had a resurgence in pop culture recently,
Collaborations in recent years with celebrities such as Justin Bieber and Post Malone have given the company new life. New Zealand brand manager for Crocs, Jess Lowe, says they're a shoe for everyone.
Crocs are just making a huge fashion comeback. We're really seeing it being brought amongst like the culture creators, so that's your fashionistas or people who just want to express their style in a unique way.
Shoe buyers we spoke to seem to be unsure about rocking a pair.
No. It's very comfortable, and as a healthcare worker, I would wear Crocs.
No.
Definitely I would.
They're not my style, I just don't like them.
And because they're very good in the garden.
I think there's too much stigma about them with my friends, and if I wore them I'd just get absolutely wrecked.
If they have some stylish pairs, it's a possibility.
The style, however, does seem to appeal to people from all walks of life.
I mean, we're selling the camo clogs to sort of hunting and fishing kind of guys, and then the colourful Crocs is definitely going to be more of the teenagers, bringing back that sort of 90s nostalgic footwear kind of thing.
This rise in popularity has translated to Wall Street as well. Crocs reached record highs in share prices for the first quarter of this year. Earnings are worth $1.49 right now, 60 cents above where they were expected to be. In the first quarter of the year, the shoe company made $460 million compared to the $281 million they made during the same time period last year.
I think they're just super versatile. You can just wear them with anything you like. They're comfortable. Everyone likes to be comfortable these days.
So if you're looking to make a fashion statement and remain comfortable, grab a pair of Crocs and you're good to go. Jess also says they started seeing a rise in sales around March of last year, coinciding with the COVID lockdown. There were several reasons for this. Firstly, the online sales took off. Then she says many healthcare workers were also wearing them, the main reasons for this being they were comfortable and they're easy to clean.
Thanks, Nick. If you've got any old computers at home, how about donating them to charity? A group called EcoCare is sending a container load of educational equipment to Vanuatu to help them after Cyclone Harold. Our reporter Pia Nixon is following the story.
Russell Taylor is a man on a mission. EcoCare is planning to send a 40-foot container full of computers, books and medical resources to schools in Vanuatu affected by Cyclone Harold.
We are involved in and have been asked to support their needs by trying to rehome educational resources into their schools.
Russell is not alone on his venture, teaming up with volunteer students from UC.
We take a lot of these things for granted. We have access to computers and a lot of them go to e-waste and some of them are still quite functional.
Also helping out, Cassius Gumbo.
Having the ability to source these resources for us here and send them there, they might look minute, but they will change somebody's life.
In 2020, Cyclone Harold tore through Vanuatu, affecting over 159,000 people, leaving 87,000 people homeless.
As a result of the cyclone, schools and hospitals were devastated and their resources were destroyed.
Taylor and his crew will be packing computers just like this in a 40-foot container that will be shipped off to Vanuatu.
The main reason for Taylor's compassion, he believes people living in first world nations take their situation for granted.
Anybody living in first world nations or wealthy nations or developed nations are super fortunate.
All going well, they're hoping to send the container in the next month or so, helping those who need it most. Pia Nixon, Metro News.
For many years, Canterbury's suicide figures have been among the worst in the country. Experts are warning the number of people taking their own lives will continue to rise if the government doesn't take urgent action. To discuss the issue, Dr. Sue Bagshaw joins our reporter Tommy Flavel in the studio.
Joining us live is Dr. Sue Bagshaw. Thanks for coming in, Sue.
Pleasure.
So, can you tell me why are the rates so bad in Canterbury?
I think what we're experiencing is all the usual stuff of the way we live our lives these days in terms of all the pressures that we've got from homework, school training, social media, everything. But on top of that, we've got people who have been born during what is actually quite a large natural disaster. I don't think people realise what a disaster the earthquakes were. And it wasn't a one-off. we were getting shakes one after the other, which actually, even those follow-up shakes on their own were damaging. And so I think what we're experiencing is people who have had damage to their mental health and emotional regulation really early on. And when that happens, it's really hard as you're growing up, especially when you hit puberty, when your anxiety centres are going up anyway, and you've already gone up because of the earthquakes. And then on top of that, we've had the shootings, and then on top of that, we've had floods and fires and all those kind of things. It all adds up to people who find it really hard to maintain their mental health.
And out of that, who is at the highest risk? Is it males?
I think, well, males, their amygdala grows a bit bigger than other people's, and that's the centre in your brain that looks out for danger and looks out for threat. But at the same time, I think the males may be more at threat partly because our society tells them they have to man up. And they're not allowed to ask for help, and they have to, just get on with it. And if our society would say, hey, everybody's allowed help, it doesn't matter what gender you are, please ask, please talk, that would be so much better.
And what are your predictions for the future going forward with the rates of suicide?
Well, I think it's really important that we recognise, number one, where people are at. Number two, I think we have to actually, as a whole society, slow ourselves down. Because if we don't, we're really putting everybody in danger, not just young people. And I shouldn't say just young people, because, without young people growing older, it's not going to be a very good society that we're looking at. So I think investment into actually allowing companies, firms, schools to slow down and actually give family time, give time to be able to take time to notice would be really, really helpful.
And previously you mentioned about the government budget. Can you please talk a bit about what the government can do to help?
I was really pleased to see the rise in benefit levels. I know some people don't like benefits going up, but when you don't have enough to eat, it's very hard to be mentally well. And everybody's benefit money is going on accommodation because accommodation is so high. When you can't eat, it doesn't work. So it's really important for the benefits to go up, need to go up further. But most importantly, we need to be creating jobs so that people can get into well-paid jobs on a living wage where you can actually pay for rent and food, and not either or.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, sir. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thanks, Tommy. Coming up, we take a sightseeing tour with a difference, which has nothing to do with what you see. And we meet the boys behind Christchurch's newest hidden gem.
My name is Ella Cook. I'm a television production manager in London. I work for a company called Red House Television. I work on property shows, comedy and entertainment. I worked as the production assistant on New Zealand's Got Talent, on Target, on What Now. I came to London nearly 4 years ago now. Didn't have any issues finding a job at all. I went to a company called Hat-Trick Productions. We won a BAFTA last year, as well as were nominated this year. To even be nominated and go to the awards was something I never ever thought that I would ever do. But then to also win it and go up on the BAFTA stage was just a brilliant feeling. I love living in London. Definitely a big change from living in New Zealand. There's so many people, it's so busy and bustling all the time. I also love being able to just go to the theatre or see something different every night. The professionalism that we are taught at Broadcasting School really helps in the wider world. I had my degree on my CV as well as the work experience that I'd gained after my internship. I would never have thought that I'd get this far. It's the best thing that I ever did for my career. There's no way that I would be where I am today without the degree that I have.
Welcome back. Christchurch cinemas are battling to keep their seats filled as younger generations are diverting to video subscription services. Claudia Toxopoulos investigates.
Cinemas have evolved over the years, from the first motion picture screening in New Zealand back in 1896
and here's your present
to the blockbuster films we see today. But times are changing. Nowadays it seems moviegoers are moving on. And the rise of video subscription services is to blame.
But now you can watch what you want, when you want, on what you want.
And what Nick wants is the younger generation to engage with cinema. A survey of 1,400 local students found more than 80% prefer to watch movies online, with 40% saying they have not set foot in a cinema in more than a year.
It's a generational shift and it'll take time to peg back, but back in the day, cinema was quite an experience.
An experience that comes at a price.
Going to the cinema every now and again is really fun with your friends because it's like an experience. But I think like every single time you want to watch a movie, you don't want to like go out to the cinema and pay for a ticket and all of that.
Whilst they may be under pressure, Nick says cinema going is an experience second to none.
Filmmakers don't make films for people to chat and get up and have a break and pause and have a cup of coffee or get on their cell phone.
For most of the older generation, however, the cinema is still a golden age experience.
If you go to places like Wanaka where they serve you a meal if you want, or you can have a glass of wine as you're watching.
Well, if it's a big event, bigger screen, or bigger than my screen anyway.
Always in my life there will always be space for cinema.
Global giants like Netflix, Disney Plus and YouTube are fragmenting audiences and overtaking most local platforms. And as this competition grows, cinema owners are left wondering, what is the ticket to success?